Can you dig it?
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Riot. Today, I am going to be talking about the MCU. And just right off the bat, before I dive into this, I just kind of want to make it known that I do have some complaints about the MCU, but what I'm not going to do is make this, a bitch session about, all my gripes with it, right? Like, I'm sure there's other YouTube channels that, their bread and butter is to talk shit about the MCU day in and day out. That's not really what I'm here to do. What I am here to do basically is to, just talk about some things that I feel like need changing within the MCU, right? Because I'm a fan, man. Like, I look at the end of the day, no matter how bad the MCU has gotten recently, at the end of the day, we had some good times, right? Like the other phases, it was fun, going to the movies with your friends and watching these movies and these characters that you love, and sitting through years of end credits just to get to the end credits scene, and then getting excited about the next movie that's coming up. It was fun for a while, man. And as a fan, as a real comic book fan, I consider myself, I've been reading comics since 1983. Even with the changes that were made to some of the characters and stories, I still enjoyed them, right? So Marvel hasn't been completely off the cuff, but I feel like with this recent phase, they have missed a lot more than they hit. And I kind of just want to get into that, right? And it's sad because I almost feel like all they had to do was take a little time away after Endgame, you know, refresh, think of some new ideas, and then come back to the table. And I think they would have been fine, but I don't know what happened. Like maybe all the talent left that was at Marvel, and Kevin Feige is now being exposed for not being as sharp as we thought he was when it came to putting together these films, or like I just can't put my finger on why they missed so hard in this phase, right? Because if you remember, right after or during the pandemic, we didn't have anything from Marvel for almost, I think, a year and a half, or at least a year. And I think it wasn't until 2021 where we got WandaVision. I could be wrong, but I think it was last year. But WandaVision started the slate of Disney Plus shows. And so, but we went through like at least a year of nothing from Marvel. That's not true. I think we got Black Widow, and I think Black Widow came before WandaVision. I'm not completely sure on that, but we did get Black Widow. But don't get me started on that shit because, oh man, do I have issues with Black Widow in that movie. But anyway, guys, I just remember thinking, well, okay, cool. We're going to start this year with a few shows, and then those shows will lead into movies, right? And to be honest with you, I understand that right after a big event like Endgame, that you have to start over. You have to kind of like reboot and build up to the next big event, right? And I thought for sure that's what we are doing. The problem is though, is Marvel themselves shot themselves in the foot by talking about the multiverse so much, right? Kind of getting our expectations up, if you will, for this event. And so getting through that slow burn of TV shows, right? Because we got WandaVision, we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we had Loki, we had What If, and I think we went straight from that into Shang-Chi, I believe. And Shang-Chi was fine. It was a decent movie. I wasn't blown away by it, but it wasn't bad. But then we got the Eternals, which was hot garbage. I rank Eternals up there. I think it might be the worst MCU project, period. And that's I'm saying it's worse than Thor 2 and Iron Man 3, which I didn't care for either. So after Eternals, I was a little scared because I'm thinking, ooh, if this is where we're going, man. And I'm actually one of those fools who read the Eternals, right? I read Jack Kirby, I read Neil Gaiman, so I know the characters, and I understand that certain things have to be changed. And as opposed as I am to race swapping and gender swapping, which I'll be talking about in a different episode of my show, um, as opposed as I am to those things, I was okay with it for that particular projects. I thought this movie's going to be hard to translate anyway. So race swapping and gender swapping is going to be the least of its problems, right? I mean, technically, it should have been a TV show instead of a movie, but that's neither here nor there at this point. I think Marvel's completely abandoned that whole franchise. So, but I was a little nervous. I thought, shit, man, is this where we're heading? But then we got No Way Home, and it was literally not just the best Spider-Man movie, but just probably one of the best MCU movies, period. So I was feeling a lot more hopeful. And then we end up with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And my expectations going into that were beyond high. And maybe it's my own fault for letting myself have those kind of expectations. But you're talking about Doctor Strange, the Scarlet Witch, with Sam Raimi directing. I'm like, there's no way they're going to mess with this. There's no way. They did. Somehow they did. And I have a lot of issues with that movie, but I think my biggest issue overall, and it's a really big one, is the fact that Multiverse of Madness doesn't even operate as a real movie. And what I mean by that is it if you never saw WandaVision, you would have no idea what was going on with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, right? Unless you saw a different property leading up to that movie, you would have no idea, right? Because remember, in Endgame, it just ends with them beating Thanos, and then they went to Tony's funeral, and then everyone went their separate ways, right? That's the last time we saw Wanda on the big screen, right? So going into Multiverse of Madness, where she has children, she took over some town called Westview or Westfield, I don't remember. But when did that happen? If you never saw the show, when did that happen? Right? So they're counting on you to have seen their other properties for that to work as a movie. And that's not how you make a film. Right? Like it doesn't work like that. And because of that, Doctor Strange fails. There are many other reasons why, but that's a big reason. Right? So, and then we got another slew of Disney Plus shows, which were awful. I'm a huge Moon Knight fan, huge Moon Knight fan. And what they gave us, oh man, like, anyway, I'm gonna skip past that. Then we got, Miss Marvel, we had She-Hulk, which I'm going to get more into in a minute. But we just had a slew of duds, right? And then we had Thor Love and Thunder, which was fine. It was fun. Was it anything amazing? No. I liked it. There were certain things about it that I really liked, and most of it was just kind of like forgettable. So I just realized probably around the time Doctor Strange came out that Marvel's in trouble. Like I wasn't sure how bad or how deep they were in trouble, but I knew they were in trouble because something changed. Like the writing got worse. The the formula seemed to be more enforced than ever. The MCU formula, it just became like a parody of itself. That's what Phase 4 feels like, a parody of the other phases. And this wouldn't be as bad if they didn't start making these weird choices to replace real writers with these social activists who came in wanting to put in their own politics, right? And their own like social beliefs into these films or TV shows. You know, I wasn't one of those people who initially hated She-Hulk, right? I thought it was, I thought the first episode actually was pretty decent. And I I was willing to give it a shot. That's the thing, right? Like I was willing to give She-Hulk a real shot. And most TV shows, like their first episode is always going to be a little wonky. So I was willing to forgive that, right? But the show just got worse and worse and worse. And the biggest slap to me was the fact that they didn't even give her a real villain, right? Because we find out that apparently the real villains are us, the fans. Well, the toxic fans, right? But see, there's a thin line between fan and toxic fan because if you criticize them, you're toxic. If you criticize that show, you're toxic. You see the trap there? Like you're a fan as long as you don't criticize them. And I watched the show and I'm thinking, okay, obviously she has like this feminist point of view and this feminist agenda. So obviously she's going to make Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, this amazing lawyer. And because she's already stated that she was a better Hulk than the Hulk, right? And in the hour-long training or the training montage that they put together. She already stated that she deals with anger way more than Bruce because she gets catcalled, right? I mean, to her credit, she's right. I'm sure Bruce has never been catcalled. And I mean, what does he know about trauma, right? I mean, he was just mentally and physically abused as a kid, you know, his whole life and has to deal with anger every day because of that. But what does he know about getting catcalled, right? So she's right. But the more and more I listen to Jessica Gale talk in interviews, it's clear that she despises not fans specifically, the male fans. If you're a male fan, you are public enemy number one. And she had no problem expressing that in almost every interview she did. And then you had Kevin Feige sitting next to her like a little boy, looking up to his mommy to get approval to speak. I honestly, I think she has pictures on him that she's threatened to release because there's no way if you're Kevin Feige, you're sitting through these interviews and seeing how bad the show really is, and you're sitting there cheering her on. Like, there's no way. There's something very weird and shady about this whole situation. But either way, Jessica Gale has made it clear that she hates the fans. And to be honest with you, she's not a good writer. It's like you could hate the fans, but at least be a good writer, right? She's awful.
The worst. She's the worst in the world.
I'm not going to continue on that track. I feel like the character of She-Hulk, it was a major. It was a bomb that didn't need to be a bomb because the character is interesting enough. In the comic, she's amazing, and none of that translated to the actual show. But these are just the decisions that the MCU has been making lately, right? Some of y'all know this YouTuber named Young Rippa, Young Rippa 59. His real name is Eric July. Amazing YouTuber. I think he's one of the best on YouTube. Guy has a lot of knowledge. He is always talking about the problems with these comic movies. He talks about the tokenization of these characters. Love talking to him. If you guys get a chance, definitely check him out. Young Rippa 59. But he recently had a show about a Marvel executive named Nate Moore who said these words out loud. He said they don't want to hire anybody, meaning director, writer, who has previous knowledge of the characters and the stories. I'm going to say that again for you. Marvel, the MCU, doesn't want to hire writers and directors who know the characters. Who know the characters. What are they doing? I mean, I know what they're doing. They're trying to cater to these fair weather fans that hop on trends, right? Because the real fans are going to call them out on their bullshit. So they don't want to focus on us. They want to focus on these fans who will be here one minute, gone the next. And it's funny though, because once that happens, because we all know things move in trends, and eventually this comic book thing is going to get very old for people. I think Wakanda Forever might be their last like major grossing film for a while. And I guarantee you, as soon as it dries up, who are they going to look at again? Who are they going to try to cater to again?
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Yep. They're going to come back to us. The fans, right? The fans that they've been dissing for like the past 2 years. I don't know, guys. Again, this isn't to completely bash the company. It is to call them out. But I want to end it on, I actually have hope. Like, I have hope that Marvel will get their shit together. I miss being excited for MCU films. Like, I miss like the expectation of knowing, hey, I'm working hard this week, but at the end of the week, I'm gonna be hanging out with my buddies and we're gonna go watch a Marvel film and we're gonna get some drinks and we're gonna have a good time. Like, I miss that, man. Like, I hope that they figure it out. Stop hiring these people like Jessica Gal. Get rid of this asshole, Nate Moore, right? And hire people who actually give a fuck about the property, about the characters, and about us, the fans. Anyway, guys, that's it for me today. That's my spiel. If you feel inclined, by all means, share my video with your friends. I would love that. Please comment whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I'd love to hear from y'all. Definitely like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cancel Dante, which is right down there. And I'll talk to you guys soon.